It may seem like an odd way to win over Republican faithful, first by trying to abolish key provisions of the same anti-terror law that the party helped write in after 9/11, and then by blaming fellow party members, fellow Republicans, for contributing to the rise of ISIS. It may seem odd, but it is what is playing out right now. This is the strategy in recent days of presidential hopeful Rand Paul. Here's CNN's Athena Jones.
Rand Paul, increasingly at odds with some key members of his own party, doubling down on his opposition to government surveillance, tools supporters say are vital to fighting terrorism.
Our founding fathers, the intent was to protect our privacy.
Paul has led the charge against the NSA's mass collection of phone data. He took to the Senate floor to block attempts to extend the program beyond its June 1st expiration. That prompted an eye roll from one fellow Republican.
I object.
Objection is heard.
Our forefathers would be aghast.
A libertarian with an isolationist streak, he's also blaming some in his party for the rise of ISIS.
ISIS exists and grew stronger because of the hawks in our party who gave arms indiscriminately, and most of those arms were snatched up by ISIS.
Comments also drawing fire from his fellow presidential hopefuls.
When it comes to foreign policy, which is an increasingly important issue, his statements yesterday and some of his previous statements, I just think render him unsuitable.
I think there's a lot of good things about it, but I think he's just wrong on this one.
I would expect to hear that from maybe Bernie Sanders. I don't expect to hear that from someone running for the Republican nomination.
Paul vows to keep blocking the NSA programs, sending snarky tweets like this to President Obama. In 2006, you said we should defend privacy of Americans. So you were for privacy before you were against it? And calling on his supporters to stand with Rand and throw in some cash. His campaign even selling this filibuster starter pack with a T-shirt that reads, "The NSA knows I bought this Rand Paul T-shirt." Still, Paul's opponents say he's wrong on the NSA.
There's nobody who's engaging in this national conversation other than me who's used these tools. I've used them for 7 years as a prosecutor, and what they talk about is theoretical. What I talk about is actual.
Athena Jones, CNN, Washington.
It has been quite a week for Senator Rand Paul. He warned today that he will, quote, force the expiration of the NSA illegal spy program. He plans to do that on the Senate floor tomorrow night when Congress meets for a rare session to try to hash this out before it expires. Let's talk about it with CNN political commentators Marc, Lamont and Ben Ferguson. Guys, thanks for being here. Ben, let me begin with you. Take a look at this statement. This is part of what Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid said today. Quote, if Senator McConnell cannot convince Senator Paul, his fellow Kentuckian, whom he endorsed for president, to back off his filibuster threat, then Senator McConnell will have no one to blame but himself for allowing crucial national security tools to expire on his watch. Is he right?
I don't know if I would necessarily blame him for this. Rand Paul is a guy that has been about this issue and been very consistent. If there's anything to admire about him, it's that he doesn't flip-flop on these type of issues, even when he's taking the heat. He doesn't make deals, and I'm sure he could be in a much bigger position in the Senate if he was willing to play game with others, and he will not back down from this. But at the same time, I do think this is a little bit extreme from him to claim that others were that helped the rise of ISIS, the GOP, and I think this is going to end up being one of those days and issues that may actually hurt his real chances at the White House more than any other issue because, yeah, he may have a core base that loves him for this, but ultimately I think the American people are going to decide, I don't trust him with national security because of what he did on this issue.
And he wrote an op-ed in Time saying, I'm not an isolationist. We will be strong on foreign policy when we need to be. At the same time, he says he's going to call it like it is, how he sees it playing out. But Mark, to you, the Wall Street Journal hated it that he said that. In their op-ed, they wrote, Republicans who begin their campaigns assailing other Republicans rarely succeed. Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment was, thou shalt not criticize another Republican. What do you make of this strategy, Mark?
Well, first of all, Ronald Reagan said that, but Ronald Reagan was winning at the time. Everybody says that when they're winning. I disagree with Ben's assertion that this isn't a reflection on McConnell. If this were Harry Reid right now, and some rogue Democratic senator were saying something that people didn't like, they'd say it was a question of leadership. Now suddenly everyone's an individualist when it happens on the Republican side of the aisle. I find that curious. At the same time, I agree with Ben. I think Rand Paul should be applauded for his principle. Too often in the Congress, both on the Democratic side and the Republican side, people concede their values for what's politically expedient, especially when they're running for president. How many times have we seen Hillary Clinton or Chris Christie change positions on something significant because they want to be president? I think that's troublesome. I do, however, think it's problematic for people to say that Rand Paul somehow is compromising American national security. And I also think it's problematic for Rand Paul to say that anybody who disagrees with him is helping ISIS. That kind of language, for me, is very dangerous. It's divisive, and it doesn't get us anywhere.
I think it's interesting, Ben, Rand Paul telling a crowd on Chicago's South Side this week that he favors reclassifying non-violent felonies as misdemeanors, granting second chances for felons to regain the right to vote. Does that sound like a Republican presidential candidate to you? Is that a good strategy?
No, and that's part of his strategy, which is weird to me. He doesn't want to look or be like anyone else in this field, and that he feels like that is what is going to make him stand out in the crowd.
Why is that weird?
Well, it's weird because you can have these ideas, but at some point when you're elected official, you have to look at the reality, whether it be dealing with ISIS, whether it be dealing with Al-Qaeda, whether it be dealing with drugs and offenses that are felonies right now. And he sits there and he's like, I will never change on any of these issues, when sometimes I gotta wonder, does he really believe this, or is this more about the issue of I'm this Mr. Independent and I will never change who I am? And I think I think it's going to do him in his campaign. I really do.
Well, I think it's kind of tough to applaud him on the one hand. It's kind of tough to applaud him on the one hand for being steadfast, not compromising in his opinion, and on the other hand saying this guy won't change his mind. I mean, I think on some level we have to accept that this is who he is. And what makes him look so bizarre to us is that he's one of the few politicians that's actually being honest. He's actually saying what he wants, saying what he believes, and trying to execute it. And this stuff isn't
But Mark,
pie
I'm
in
not
the
so
sky.
sure. But here's my thing.
It's possible to make this
I'm not
work.
so sure.